Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to this debate, which is, as repeated, this House views the grammar school system as detrimental to the educational provision in the UK. I'd like to remind everybody that we are proposing this motion. Now, just before this, I say all my points, I'm going to set a few parameters for this debate. Now, for this debate, I'm going to be speaking specifically of the detrimental nature of grammar schools within areas that have comprehensive schools in them. So we're not going to be talking about how the 164 grammar schools are detrimental to the 3,900 plus other comprehensive schools. Within the realms of this debate, detrimental refers to something that causes some form of harm. It's not just inconvenient, it's actually causing some form of harm to the comprehensive schools. And this debate will be focusing on educational provision in the 21st century. Now, I'll be making a series of points to do with the morality of selective schools and to do with the relevance of these selective schools, specifically the grammar school. Now, grammar schools were first formed as we know it in 1944, right? And they aimed to create a tier of education within the UK that catered for people who didn't have the money to be able to pay for private schools, but were bright enough to be able to deserve some form of education that led them to something more than just being on a farm or grazing with sheep somewhere. So this grammar school system in the 21st century does not cater for these people anymore. It doesn't serve that purpose because of the fact that this grammar school system has been hijacked by middle-class parents who are giving their children education in the form of tuition from the age of 9 to 10 in order to give their children a chance of getting into a grammar school. It is not for people who have that talent anymore and are just going into a grammar school because of the fact that they are being ostracized by these people who are basically paying their way into grammar schools.
Excuse me, sir?
This is shown by the 1 to 2% of people who, for instance, have a free school meal in a grammar school compared to the 30 to 40% in comprehensive schools, showing that it is not for, say, for instance, grammar schools do not consist mainly of working class citizens, but more of the middle class. Right, back in the 70s, everybody sat the 11 plus. All children up to the age of 11 sat the 11 plus, and so primary schools actually helped them in the 11 plus. So in this sense, there was more of an even playing field. That everybody had that equal chance because everybody had been at least given some form of knowledge basis on the 11 plus, right? So that was in the 70s, but in the 21st century, not all primary schools give education in the 11 plus because of the fact that it is not compulsory. This means that this scheme that was originally intended for an era ago is not relevant, and so it gives a lower form of education, which I will explain in my next point. My next point being about the morality of grammar schools. Now, grammar schools tend to basically take out the brightest of students within an area or within a catchment area of some form and put them in a concentrated area. Now, this is all good because of the fact that these people are with like-minded individuals, and so they basically excel at some point. But it doesn't help the people who are left and haven't passed the 11 plus. Yes?
If you want to go into a particular course in university, you often have to take an exam for that. Why is it different that you don't have to take an exam to get into a grammar school?
What my panel is saying is not saying that an exam to get into grammar school is a wrong idea. What we are actually arguing is the fact that it is detrimental to have a grammar school system. It's all well and good taking exams in a secondary school. And you obviously take exams in secondary school in the form of GCSEs, which would help you for your later life. Now, it's detrimental because you've taken out all the concentrated students who want to do well and have passed these GCSEs, leaving people who may not have been able to pass the GCSEs due to lack of funding for 11 plus or for whatever, and so they've been put in a place where they haven't got as much of a chance because they aren't being pushed by all these bright students. And teachers also tend to leave comprehensive schools because they view grammar schools as a higher in their form of career. It's seen as a kind of pinnacle of the career to be able to get into, for instance, a grammar school or private school. Not in all cases, but in general, people don't tend to stay at the comprehensive schools. So it shows in the GCSEs, for instance, Churchmead and Beechwood got between 52 and 54% 5 A stars to C's in the GCSE, whereas somewhere like St Bernard's or Langley Grammar got 98 to 100%. this shows that there is some form of detrimentality in grammar schools. Now, just to conclude, I've shown you that the grammar schools are detrimental to the educational system because I've shown that it takes out the star pupils and leaves a cohort of people who aren't able to participate as well. And so I'm urging you, Chair, to propose this motion.